I went to Leeds Beckett University, studied events management. It lasted 1 year.
So I did a first year of fine art at Teesside University.
I dropped out because the course was awful. It was too academic for my tiny mind. I don't really know what to say about why I dropped out, apart from the fact that I hated it.
I transferred because I just hated it, and I hated everyone on it really. It's not that I hated them like complete despise, but they just like weren't my sort of people. They were a lot more like wavy garms, and I was just like, this is too pretentious for me. Like,
I like Leeds as a city. I think it's because I didn't live in Leeds. I lived in Kirkstall, which is just outside of Leeds, because that's where my uni was, like the campus. But every time I've been back to Leeds since then, I've been like, oh, I really miss living in Leeds. But the timing just wasn't right.
I was more interested in like within fine art, I was more interested in like the actual video art, and I was just like going to do like a Steve McQueen thing and study fine art and then get into film. And then I thought like I'd only done my first year, so I thought, why don't I just do film? Like, it makes more sense to just do film. And I was just, because I never went in, I was just sort of like the person who would like miss out. Like, there'd be something and everyone would be like, wait, remember when that happened? I'd be like, no, I never went in. I have like shared studio spaces, and it was like so intense, and the lectures were just shit. Like, you didn't learn anything, and there was about 2 lectures a week, and most of it was just like external studio time, and because I didn't really know what I was doing, it was just like I probably need structure. Like, I so need structure in my life, otherwise I'm like, well, what am I doing anyway?
I went from events management to broadcast media production because like when I first dropped out of uni, I like proper didn't ever want to go back. Like, I was never going to go back to uni. I told like pretty much everybody I was never going to go back. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go work. I got an apprenticeship and that was awful as well. So I quit that, such a quitter, got a job at Cineworld, and then I was like, oh, I actually really like the idea of doing like film and TV. So I had a tour with one of the tutors, and he was like, oh, if you want to work in radio, then you should do broadcast media production. So I applied for both. So yeah, I don't know why I didn't like originally sign up to do something like that, to be honest, but it's fun. I like it now.
Kept saying to people like, oh, I might go to do TV and film, I might do that instead, and they'd be like, instead of them being like, oh my god, stay, they'd be like, all right then. Just like, fine, I'll go. I had a look on like the website, and I was seeing like what was to offer and everything, and it just sounded so much more my cup of tea. And anyways, I just decided one day, I didn't even tell my mum, because I thought, oh, she'll convince me not to. So I went and met up with Lucy, and I was just saying, like, asked her this stuff about like what it was all about, and then she made me really want to join. And then I thought like it would take about like 2 weeks or so to be like, oh, maybe she'll get in. And then by the end of the chat I had, which was about 10 minutes long, she was like, all right, I'll send you the timetable in a week. And I was like, oh wow, like that was so, okay. So I just decided to change my degree basically in a day.
I originally signed up to like, when I was going around all the UCAS fairs and that, I went with my mum to most of them, and she wanted me to do business because she thought that was much more of like an employable degree. And then I went to Newcastle College for an interview there, and I went with my dad, and we sat and we talked to the guy who did events management. My dad was like, oh, it sounds so good, so like me and him like basically convinced my mum to do for me to do events management, but then I like stabbed her in the back by hating it and wanted to drop out. I don't know, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time, because I thought events management sounded amazing, but then when I started to do it, it was like, oh, you don't actually get to plan an event or actually put on an event until like second year or something like that. Then you had to do a placement year as well, from like first year to second year. I struggled to find a placement, struggled to find somewhere that actually wanted to work. I applied for Disneyland, they didn't accept me, which breaks my heart every day.
I enjoy it more is because it's just everything sort of is interesting instead of going in one day and being like, oh my god, here's what we have to do. Not gonna lie, there are days in this degree where you're like, oh, this is a bit plaggy, but like all of it, there's always like ongoing projects that you're actually like interested in, and the people who are here seem really like helpful and motivated, and the lecturers just seem to know what they're talking about. Like instead of fine art, it was like you'd ask them something and then it'd just be like a completely, they wouldn't know.
I never would have signed up to this course if I hadn't maybe done that first. If I wasn't the age I was now, I wouldn't have like decided to do what I wanted to do. I found something that I wanted to do anyway, because I really wanted to move away from home. So I wouldn't have gone to Teesside. And all my sisters and my brother and that went to Newcastle University. So I was like, oh, I want to go the other way. I'm gonna go to Leeds. So actually graduating. Whereas with events management, I couldn't see myself at all. The only difference between like this course and that course though is that I was doing quite well. When I first started at events management, I was getting like good 2-1s for all my written work and that. We did a lot of group work as well, mine, but I was getting some good grades. And then this course, I'm getting maybe like 2 2s.
With here, at least you know what people are actually talking about, and they actually seem to like care in a sense, which is good. It's always nice to be cared about.
Like where I was living at uni, I was in halls, I was in student halls. And I didn't get on with like any of my flatmates. I didn't have any friends in like the block of flats itself. So I was like a proper like, I don't have any friends and I'm miserable, and it was awful. Sort of secluded area, like I wasn't in the city centre, so I couldn't actually see my friends from my course because they were in the city centre and I wasn't. So yeah, I would sit alone in my room a lot. I had like some really good friends towards the end of my time there, but it's just the course, it like wasn't right for me at all, and it made me really sad quite a lot. To the point where I met my mum and dad for lunch, and I originally just decided I wanted to drop out, and I like spent the entire time crying because they wouldn't let me drop out like then and there. I had to do the entire year, which was hard, but I suppose it's probably a good thing, because then I know what the first year of university is like now. I've done it twice.